How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another post-game live presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall as the Kraken fall to the Ducks 4-2. Made it interesting at the end, RJ, but unfortunately, this was another game where Kraken just kind of got outplayed by Anaheim for the most part throughout.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they had a few stretches of some prolonged offensive zone time, but it wasn't really very much in this one. And it's just kind of an uncharacteristic effort given the Kraken's last few games where they were playing really well. I mean, especially that last one against Vegas. This one looked very different. And it's not the kind of effort you want going into the Olympic break. And I think Blaine Lambert talked about it this morning, the temptation to maybe look ahead to the vacation. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a little bit of that tonight.
Yeah, whether it was that or whether it was just continued struggles against Anaheim, who they were 2-1 against coming into this game. But as we had talked about at the beginning of our live game commentary over on Patreon, thanks again to all the patrons who joined us for that. The Kraken haven't necessarily looked good in any of the games against Anaheim. You've been able to walk out of there with 2 out of the 3 victories prior to tonight, but they weren't exactly like good games for the Kraken. And obviously that trend continued this evening. The Kraken just kind of getting outplayed by Anaheim through the vast majority of this one. Long stretches where the Kraken just could not get a shot on goal. And while you are able to rally late and put a lot of pressure on an Anaheim defense that does not look ready for the big time when it comes to defending leads, it was just a little bit too late.
Yeah, they're just, it wasn't enough. I mean, I do like the goalie pull still from Lane Lambert to give his team a little bit of momentum heading into tomorrow. But yeah, you can't expect to win a game where you're down 4 with like 6 minutes to go. That just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. You know what does work, RJ? Just about everything at Queen Anne Beer Hall, and certainly their burgers of the month, as it is February and it is time for a new burger of the month. So if you want to go check out any of the Olympic games this month and watch those at Queen Anne Beer, well, I guess those are going to be in the morning, maybe maybe not at the beer hall for some of those. But if you want to check out any of the other fun sporting events that are going on around the world, you can check those out at Queen Anne Beer Hall and get this month's burger of the month, the East Meets West burger, RJ. I don't know if you're looking at it there.
I am.
Okay.
I'm looking at it wanting one.
Yes. Got is it hoisin?
Yeah,
Bourbon?
hoisin sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. Bourbon.
Yeah.
Glazed pork belly, onion, white cheddar, sriracha, aioli, and cilantro. It looks pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and it's part of a special Lunar New Year menu all month long. They've got a bunch of other items. They've got like Lunar New Year wings, honey walnut shrimp, crab rangoon mozzarella sticks, and of course the East Meets West smash burger, pork belly fried rice. Like, who does this? Like, what other what other place like that does this? Has a special menu all month with some very interesting food. I know they usually go with the kind of German Bavarian cuisine, but going a little bit outside the comfort zone. But they knock it out of the park, whatever they do.
Oh, that they do. So definitely make sure to check that out, everybody, at any of their 3 awesome locations around Seattle. Gonna kick off stuff here in chat with Invader that was truly Kraken hockey. It certainly was for this team in the sense that you start off maybe a little bit slow, you pick it up a little bit towards the end of the first period. But then it's just one of those, like, you kind of struggle and you try to stay in it. Things got a little too rough for them early on in the third period there, right? They were already down by 2, and then the cascade of penalties started rolling in for the Kraken. Anaheim eventually is able to go up 3-0, then 4-0. It became a little bit too much for them. But the story of this team, RJ, this 25-26 season Seattle Kraken, is we will show up at some point. It just might be the last 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah. And usually whenever they decide to show up, it's often enough, no matter how big of a hole they dig themselves, as long as it's, I guess the key is that once it gets to 3 goals, that's when it's a real problem. But I mean, I talked about this earlier in the game, and we had Viren dig up this stat, which I'm grateful for. The Kraken were tied 0-0 after 1, which is usually a pretty darn good script for them. I mean, they're now 11-4-1 this season after a scoreless first period. And a lot of that is usually they're pretty reliably the team that scores first. After that, if they can keep the first period 0-0, it feels like a guarantee almost that they're going to score that next goal. they didn't. They got behind the 8 ball, and I think when they're chasing the whole game, that's not Lane Lambert hockey. That's not how they want to play.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. Schultz tuned in to watch the broadcast, thought I'd access the Ducks feed by mistake. Uh, I don't know if that's just because it was the TNT game or because they were certainly, pumping the tires of the Anaheim Ducks a lot on the broadcast this evening. That being said, look, through the vast majority of this game, the Ducks were the better team. Like, if you are to just cover this game as a neutral observer, you would walk away being like, okay, this Ducks team's pretty good, up until the point where it's like, okay, they need to learn how to defend a lead because they clearly can't do that late when things are serious. But through most of this game, I mean, the Ducks kind of controlled and dictated things.
Yeah, they did. And I think for these national games too, these broadcasts are kind of being dropped in there, and, they've got a couple storylines prepared beforehand, but I think by and large, you kind of earn the narrative as the game
Mhm.
goes on one way or another, especially for a couple teams like this that, let's be honest, like national media doesn't really care a ton about, Anaheim and Seattle. You kind of have to earn it with your play. And I think the Ducks earned the better of the narrative tonight.
Yeah. Certainly, going into the third period and everything. And then from Brivey here, Dostal trying to pull a Joey. And we talked about this a lot on that live game commentary. Just you need to make a play like just holds on to it way too long.
Yeah, he wasn't decisive. I think that's really where his mistake was, is he wasn't, as soon as you vacate the net, you need to be thinking, I'm going to score a goal here. And you have to get the puck off quickly. He was a little bit lazy with it, waits too long, and yeah, it gets knocked down right in front. And that's the fear. Like, he was playing scared, and when you play scared, often the things you're fearing become reality.
Yep. I talk about coaching scared a lot. It applies to playing scared too. Usually we don't see it too often. I think it's just because that's a unique situation he's not in all the time, so you
Yeah.
get some of that fear creeps in there. But I
And if you
agree,
notice,
that's what happened.
every future dump in, he stayed in that net, was
Yeah.
not moving.
Yeah. It'll be curious next time he's in that situation what he does too. Does he just let it go? Does he just throw it into the corner for his defenseman there? Because he had Lacombe sitting in the corner all by himself. You could just
I think that's the
safe
play.
pass that way, and you don't have to worry about anything. And then Viren, I'll take Shane goals even in garbage time, RJ. And yeah, he is the beneficiary of that play from Dostal.
Yeah, no, I mean, he does end up benefiting from it, and it's part of it's being in the right place. That
Although
as you want. Wait, wasn't it Cartier though?
it is being credited to Cartier. I thought it had bounced off of Shane's body at some point along the way.
That's what I thought too, but it's saying Cartier unassisted, so
Yeah, so I
I don't
guess
know.
not. We'll
All right,
see.
well, I guess
There's
we
still
will
plenty
not
of
take
time.
Shane goals.
Yeah, there's time for them to fix that, but yeah, we'll see what ends up going on there. But if not, Ty Cartier, good on him getting his third goal of the season. Right place, right time, staying hard. Staying in there, working hard, all that good stuff. And I liked how aggressive the Kraken were, despite the fact that they were down 4-1. Pull the goalie, really go for it. Treat it like a serious situation that you believe you can come back in. And I think like that's the big takeaway for me for Lane Lambert in this one, right? Because obviously there's lots of things that you can point to with his team's performance tonight and it not really being there. But I think the best message he sent was once they get that Jordan Eberle goal, he pulls Philip Grubauer and he's like, okay, show me what you got, right? Like we're back in this game. I legitimately think we can do something here. I'm sending that message by taking this action. And the team responded to it.
Oh yeah, they really did, and I think that's one of the things you can do as a coach. You can just try and get something for the next game. I like that Ty Cartier was out on the ice for that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not a situation he'd normally be in. If you're down by one, he's not going to be out there on the ice 6-on-5, but you do give him some extra opportunity there, and he can, get a goal in a situation he probably wouldn't be on the ice for normally.
Yep. Got XZ team owes Groovy some beer. They do. This was a rough one for Philip Grubauer. As B pointed out, Groovy's allowed to yell at the team as much as he wants after this one. Grubauer did a great job of keeping them in this game, right? When the Kraken were going through those long stretches where they were not getting shots on goal, they weren't even really playing in the offensive zone. Philip Grubauer did everything he could to keep the team in this game, keep the Ducks off the board. And then even once the Ducks scored, for a long time through that second period, it was just the 1-0 situation. It continued to make saves, and just the team in front of him just never got going until, as we've been talking about all night so far on the post game, that final like 6 minutes.
Yeah, you need that foothold of the first goal, and it just kind of never came for them. And you could see Grubauer a little exasperated, it seemed like, toward the end of the game. I mean, there was that play where he makes a really good save on the Ducks power play where they drive in the net. He's in the splits and just kind of picks up the puck and just throws it away, almost looking like he's just kind of had enough. There was another one like leading up to the TV timeout where he just kind of chucks the puck away or whatever. It seemed like he was a little frustrated with the way things were going, and
Yeah,
rightfully so.
right. Well, and it's one of those where you get the Truba goal with about half a minute left in the second period, and it's the first shot he's faced in a while. Kraken have had the last 7 shots on goal at that point. And you get that goal, and then 24 seconds into the third period, you get that Killorn sequence off the 4-on-4, and that's less than a minute's worth of game time. Right? Obviously, there's a whole intermission in there, but when you just look at it, as far as the game is concerned, as far as the tracking and everything is concerned, those goals happen less than a minute apart in this one, and you feel that if you're a goaltender, right? You're just trying to get to the end of the period. You get that shot from Truba, you can't see it because the screen in front, it goes past you, and then there's shenanigans at the end of the period, leads to 4-on-4. Your team isn't really ready for that 4-on-4 to come out for the start of that third, and Killorn is able to get the goal on you 24 seconds in. Like, that's just got to be such a brutal sequence for a goaltender to have to experience.
Yeah, and especially with the team that, you feel like you can come back from anything. The Kraken have erased so many 2-goal deficits this season. You go into it primed to think, okay, if I stop every shot for these last 20 minutes, we've got a real shot at winning this thing based on what we've done this season. And then it all just goes away right away, and that can be really frustrating.
Yep. Schultz, does the roster freeze prevent general managers from talking to other GMs, or can trades be more or less agreed to but not announced until after the pause?
So GMs can still talk to each other. Doesn't prevent anything like that. And I think there will be plenty of talk between the GMs. I think a lot of trades are going to be worked out during that time of the Olympic freeze. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff come to fruition once that roster freeze is over. But the trades just cannot actually be made in that time. So you might see some announcements afterwards. And by the way, the roster freeze, so everybody knows, is noon Pacific time tomorrow. So about 14 hours away.
Yep.
So coming up.
Yep. I also wonder how many potential trades will get worked out, and it'll be like, look, I like the framework of this. I want to see how my team responds to the first couple games afterwards, right? Like there might not be a lot of trades that are announced the moment the roster unfreeze, but like throughout the week leading up to the trade deadline, because it's 8 days or something until then the trade deadline, or is it a little longer, I guess?
It's a little bit longer because it's
like 8
March.
games is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 8 games. So there's a little bit of time. And so that's the kind of thing where if you feel like you're in a good position, maybe, especially one of these teams in the West where it's like iffy, you're like, all right, if my team goes out for, gets a couple wins off the bat, I'll pull the trigger on this trade to go bring somebody in that we've already discussed the framework of, or vice versa. If you're like Nashville, you probably had a discussion about maybe selling some guys. You go on a losing streak after the break. You're like, all right, let's get rid of them.
Yeah. No, I agree. Bryce, sounds like I picked a good game to have to miss. Yeah, I mean, you did miss some excitement at the end. Like, watch the highlights and watch how the Kraken were playing there at the end. But for the most part, yeah. And then from Ali's here, crazy that the Ducks can withstand the forecheck way better than the Bruins and Leafs. And I mean, look, they did, right? Like that fourth line for the Kraken, not as effective in this one. There were times, and I think you saw that in that stretch, the second half of the second period, when the Kraken did have those 7 shots on goal. But for the most part, yeah, the Ducks did do a good job of kind of withstanding what the fourth line kind of wants to bring from the Kraken.
Yeah, and on the live game commentary, we kept talking about how many clean zone exits the Ducks were having out of their own zone. The Kraken were really unable to get pucks in and then keep them for second and third opportunities. And I liked the Ducks' patience in the D zone, especially like when Jackson Lacombe was out there. His decision-making with the puck breaking out of the zone is really impressive. But it wasn't just him. Like everybody on that blue line, like they're pretty well coached for that.
Mm-hmm. No, they are. They are. Maddie, I lied. I guess I'm here. We
Glad you're
appreciate
here,
you being
Maddie.
here,
Yeah.
Maddie. We do. We do. And then from Bribey, is it me or did Montour seem a bit off? I think it wasn't that Montour was off. It was that Montour was trying and pressing, especially once the Kraken were down. It was just that the rest of the team was off, and so they weren't really there for him to make plays with. But I don't think it was him so much as it was the collective around him.
Yeah, and I think with Montour, a lot of what he does relies on that kind of chemistry, that being connected, as coaches will say, especially Lambert, just being connected as a unit, because he's fast, he can move the puck, he can be anywhere on the ice, and that's a big part of what he brings, especially in the offensive zone, is that he'll just cycle around everywhere. But that's only really an advantage if the other players kind of know where he's going to be and are in a position to find him. And I felt like the whole team just kind of seemed off; like they just seemed not connected tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that. That the chemistry there was a real struggle for him. Schultz, 2 days off was too many for the Kraken. Apparently
Apparently.
so. Can't do it. What's 2 weeks gonna do to him then is the problem.
Well, I think there's a certain limit to it. You
Yeah.
know,
That's probably safe. And then Scott, any more Shane Wright rumors? Not really.
not that I've seen, just that they would be willing to move him in a trade for a difference maker, and they've been pretty. All the rumors have been pretty consistent on that. But I don't know if that's going to happen around the deadline. I think that's an off-season thing.
Yeah, I agree as well. And then James, is it just me or is Riker really struggling lately? Time to scratch him for a few games for Mahura or Fleury?
Yeah, I mean, with Riker Evans, I think it's been kind of an all-season thing. I just think he's not a very good fit for this system. That is one change I would think about maybe making for the next game. And look, I don't think he played that much worse than anybody else in this game. Like, I don't know that he's one to single out, but maybe after a game like this, you do look to make a lineup change, and you do have a couple pretty good defensemen who you can put in there and just give a different look. I also do wonder about Riker versus like LA, and maybe I'm curious what you'd have to say about that, like how he matches up against the way that LA plays.
Yeah, I mean, he did have that one third period turnover, and it felt like one of those ones where like a coach could absolutely use that one play to kind of point to it and be like, this is why you're sitting, even though it's more of just like, I'm sitting somebody to send a message before we have this game tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be the
Right.
idea.
And it would be like, that's the safe one to kind of go to. You can point to a very specific play and say, this is why. I I would, I don't know. I think he's going to sit? Probably not, realistically, just because I think there's just the one game left before the Olympic break. And I think the team overall showed enough in that last 5 minutes that Lambert probably just wants to carry that momentum into tomorrow. If he did, though, I don't think it would be that bad because I think, yeah, with that matchup against Los Angeles, I don't think Riker fits well into that. Like, if you're the Kraken, you need somebody who's going to be able to take care of things. Because the one thing the Kings can do is once they're established in the offensive zone, they will go to work and they will pick you apart. And I feel like Riker Evans can't necessarily handle that as well as, say, Josh Mahura can.
Yeah.
Right. And I
No,
don't
I
think
would
you
love
need
a
to.
Josh Mahura. I think that's the matchup, right? Someone who's just
Yeah.
kind of safe, stay at home, can safely move it out, and you don't have to worry about turnovers as much.
Right. And the way you're going to beat LA is by, kind of feeding your rush chances from the D zone. And Josh Mahura this year has shown he's really good with those breakout passes and getting his team up the ice from the defensive zone. And I think that's going to be more important than necessarily having the offensive skill in the O zone that Riker would bring over Mahura. I just don't think it matches up as well. Carrick, well, I sprung for good seats for this game. Last 5 minutes were fun. I mean, you got to see some good Grubauer play at least. Like, I am sorry, that is tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, my question for Kara though is, like, if you sprung for good seats, like where were they? Like, if they were like right behind the net for for that flurry at the end of the Kraken goals, maybe that's kind of worth it. I bet it'd be cool to be like near behind the net for Dostal trying to shoot for the goal and everything, and then missing and the Kraken scoring. Like, depending on where the good seats were, like you could have seen some cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And any hockey game, it's a good hockey game.
That is true.
Just being there live, right?
Oh yeah.
Stratic, is anyone living in the Ducks living building watching the live stream right now? Probably not.
Let us know.
If I
Probably
had to
not
guess.
though.
If I had to guess. But how many people would live in a Kraken building? Just for Kraken fans. See, that's the question.
If that existed, I think a lot of them would be regulars for this post game live.
I do too. That would be the
We'd know where to
place.
advertise. We'd
You
go
just
and
got
just
to
put
get in
flyers
there.
up.
Yep, you just got to get in there, stick up some stickers. You're set.
Yeah.
And then Sean, I thought it went off the Ducks player, not Shane watching live. That would explain why it's Card's goal. And yeah, Viren saying it was Shane and then it changed, so that means it's probably also it's Card's goal. Yeah, it might have. It certainly went off one of Shane or the Ducks player that was battling net front there, and I would trust the NHL to have figured that out by now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Still
was
listed
probably
as
Card's.
Cartier's goals. I'm checking right
Yeah.
now.
Yep. And then Mason, for all the bad from tonight, if the Kraken win tomorrow, they open up a 3-point playoff gap going into the break. Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where it's easy to kind of feel the disappointment with a game like this, especially because it really got away from them. But the way the standings are, the way the Kraken have been playing as a whole, I mean, this is why, like on the deep dives, we just haven't really been worried about
No, and I'm still
anything.
not.
I'm not either. Like, obviously, you need to find a way to somehow play against Anaheim, just in case you got to deal with them come playoff time. But like, I'm not worried about where they are in the standings. I still think they're just a better team and certainly in a better spot than LA or San Jose.
Yeah, agreed completely. And it's already unraveling for San Jose. Like, I think the Sharks are just about done. I mean, who knows? Maybe that jinxes them and gets them back into it. But it feels that way around the Sharks right now. You win this game against LA, and yeah, you've got a 3-point gap on them for a playoff spot, and a 5-point gap on San Jose, even though they got some games in hand. But like, that's fine. Just splitting these two games, however you're going to split them, would be okay.
Mm-hmm. No, it's totally fine. I know it kind of hurts because Anaheim's like higher in the standing, so it means like they jump up to that third spot and you're in the second wild card. But like, it'll figure
There's
itself
plenty of
out.
time. It's
There's
so
so much
close.
time.
It's plenty of time for it to sort itself out. Yeah.
If you had one game left in the season, I'd be like, yeah, this is less than ideal. But
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
it's one game left before the Olympic break. You're okay. Got some back-to-back comments here, both touching on Melanson a little bit. First from Warlord and Warheads. Yep, Gruby was on his head tonight. The boys need to bring back that energy. Even Melanson was a little flat and messed up with that elbow. And then from Chuck, my bad for writing to you guys about Melanson having so few penalty minutes. The email we did read on the deep dive earlier today when we recorded it. But yeah, Melanson goes to maybe try to fire up the team after that Jacob Trouba goal late in the second period. Goes up high on Troy Terry, flashes the elbow. It's kind of right after the buzzer sounds as well. And he ends up getting the 10-minute misconduct for it. And that's partly why we see the 4-on-4 situation. Trouba got involved after that, sticking up for Troy Terry and gets a roughing. And then that offsets with Melanson and why we get 4-on-4 to start the third. But just your thoughts on the Melanson situation and as well as his play overall.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't hate it there because he's trying to get the team going. I mean, I still think it's one of those where I think they called it correctly. They get them both. Like the Kraken, neither team gets a power play out of it. Melanson gets the 10 because it's their borderline. It's the kind of thing that in theory should get a team going. Like nothing else did, and that didn't either. But like, I don't know. I felt like there were so many moments where I'm like, well, if that doesn't get the team going, nothing will. And turns out the answer was just nothing will. I guess from like maybe a way too late goalie pull, but otherwise, like nothing got the team going. I don't hate it because you're not putting your team shorthanded. And I know the Ducks score on the 4-on-4, but like if you're trailing 2-0, 4-on-4 should benefit you. That's more open ice. I want things more wide open. So like, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a huge problem with it either. It's one of those where he misses on the execution front. Right? Like again, he goes up high, the elbows.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
I
you
don't
just
love the
can't
hit.
do
And I think
that.
the Ducks are
Right.
right to respond to it.
Yeah. But the idea of what he was doing, I don't have an issue with. It's just the execution that I think he could have done better. And I think that speaks more to Chuck's point of, just he'd been doing a good job of not getting into those situations despite how physical he was playing. And hopefully it just doesn't become a pattern or routine for him there. Montour played sloppy offense, was non-existent until the empty net goals there. It was solid energy and possession. I mean, I certainly agree that throughout the sequence there at the end, they had the solid offensive zone time. They had the possession, they had the energy, they were urgent, they felt like they were back in it, and they really believed in themselves. And that's a big thing for me, is just that it feels like they believed in themselves, and you could see that with the group. And that's just a nice thing to see for a team that we haven't gotten a ton of over the years. But as we talked about earlier, I thought Montour himself played okay. It was just nobody was really around for him.
Yeah, and on the Montour front, I think you can say the same about Vince Dunn. Like, look, when you're chasing games, they're going to take extra risks. There are going to be plays that don't look all that good because they're in that aggressive mindset. Ideally, you're just not chasing the game for as long as they were.
Yeah. No, that would be the ideal. And then from Kara, I was in the corner on the right end for the action at the end, moved down to the second row when some of the Kraken fans left. Okay, so you had some good seats there for the end. That is nice.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
Yeah. And then from Cheryl, this team continues to be so confusing. They look so good against Vegas and then not so good tonight against the Ducks. Which team shows up tomorrow, RJ?
I think it's going to be the better looking team. And look, maybe this is going to sound a little bit cynical or too negative, but I think a lot of it can come down to not so much looking at the Kraken, which Kraken teams show up, but which opponent shows up. Because this is the first game in a while where the Kraken have faced an opponent that was just not in shambles with their season falling apart. And I think it showed. The Leafs, the Devils, the Capitals, like all of them were seeing their playoff hopes just expire when they were coming to see the Kraken and played like it. The Vegas Golden Knights have lost 7 of 8. Like, they're playing some pretty pathetic opponents, which is going to make you look pretty good. Good news is you go back to playing a team that's also in a pretty bad state in the LA Kings, who just can't seem to do anything but lose in overtime and can't climb up the standings. They still are just in a really bad state this year. So I think having an opponent that is going back to being bad is going to help them a lot.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then, RJ. If the game is just kind of like a slog and it goes to overtime, and Kraken win in overtime, because that's probably what would
It
happen
feels like
if
the
it
most
goes to
likely
overtime.
outcome.
Yeah. Is that a positive, right? Like if they kind of play down to the Kings level and they get caught in the Kings trap and it's just like a really boring low event kind of game, but then you take care of it in overtime because the Kings sure as heck can't. Do we feel like good about that? Like I feel good because you get the 2 points, and that's at the end of the day all that kind of matters. But I could see it feeling a little bit like, okay, that's how we're going into the break, is with that.
Well, I understand that side of it, but I feel, because look, but that's what the whole season's been. Like, if that's how you feel about a sloppy, slog of an overtime win against the Kings, then you should just be feeling down on the season as a whole. And like, I feel like that's no way to be, knowing what this season kind of is and what it's going to be. So like, yeah, I mean, like you could not feel good about it, but you get the 2 points, and like this season, style points are out the window. This division is so bad. Nobody's good. The Kraken are only in contention because the division is so bad. Like, you have to, if you're going to enjoy anything, I feel like you have to just completely throw that out the window.
I do largely agree with you, because like, yeah, low event game, whatever, like that's the ideal for Lane Lambert. I think the thing that would concern me is just that if there's not like a huge effort and there's not times where they're really pushing and looking like they're firing on all cylinders, it would concern me more if you weren't going into the Olympic break right afterwards, because then you would see the pattern of this Ducks game tonight, then that game tomorrow, and you'd be like, oh, okay, is this one of those times where we're going to switch and
It
we're
flips
going
to
to
the
go
bad
into
stretch.
the bad stretch of time for them? But I think the fact that you have the Olympic break should, in theory, kind of kill any streak, positive or negative.
Exactly.
I think takes care of that there.
Yeah. Any momentum, positive or negative, is just gone after tomorrow.
Yeah. From Viren, I forget, are we done with the Sharks for the year? And I know you answered this a little bit later on there, but yes,
The Viren says apparently yes.
Kraken, no more games against the San Jose Sharks this year. And then Maddie asking, do we have Forsland on the broadcast tomorrow? Not sure if he'd come back from the East Coast for a one-day game. My guess is yeah. I mean, like, it would depend on what he's doing for the Olympic break, I guess. Right? Like,
Yeah,
if
I'm
it
not
makes
sure.
sense for him to just hook up with his family and then like go on a vacation or something, then probably not. But it's possible.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I mean, they travel a lot. They have done crazier things travel schedule wise than him coming back. But I don't know.
The break makes it interesting.
Yeah. We'll find out. Again, if they were at home for all this stuff and everything, we'd know because we'd be talking to everyone, but I don't know.
Yeah. Then Mason saying, RJ, you're saying that before the Panarin trade with your talk from, things on earlier.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I'd say I don't think they're the team that gets it done. I think
Probably.
one of the Florida teams is going to find a way.
Yeah. And then Cheryl Celebrini going on a heater after getting his first Olympic medal and dragging the Sharks back. I mean, if anybody could, it would be him, but
he's done so much already.
Yeah.
How much more can he do?
And then Solid Octo Parakeet. Did this turn into a Sharks channel or something? Why so many comments about them?
Hey, I just said one thing. I just said one thing as I was running down the teams in the division or whatever. I made one comment, Zoe.
And Mason, we need the RJ Bettman picture popped up when they get to these comments.
That's true. Right? People can always throw that up there. I shouldn't have shown that.
Oh man. And then also from Enough Money, Melly fail only 2 hits. I had not realized that with Melanson.
I did just look it up as we were looking at the stats and everything. Yeah. See, that's the problem. Only 2 hits.
One thing I'm going to check right now is just to see that could be just a byproduct of the Anaheim scorekeepers. I'm going to see if Anaheim's high on the hit chart.
Yeah, on the whether they read because hits are inconsistent from venue to venue.
Yes.
And I know they do have I've talked to an off-ice official. I know they do have guidelines for what a hit is supposed to be, and they do make them study those guidelines and take a test on it, but you still do have some real differences from one place to another. That's just something that consistently shows up.
Is there not just is that just not part of team statistics? Probably is somewhere on the NHL website, but I don't see it on Hockey Reference, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going for that.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was going to try. Summary, let me see if I could do this fast. Miscellaneous, maybe?
Oh yeah, and then also Nilf pointing out he did sit for 12 minutes.
Well, yes, that'll definitely do it too. Okay, so hits Anaheim,
the last couple
13th in the league.
Okay, so the last couple games though, Melanson's had 7 hits by the end of the first period.
Yeah, no, ridiculous the pace he was on, as we talked about earlier on the deep dive.
Yeah, absolutely nuts pace.
Yeah. Lindsay, I miss Catton already. I do think Berkeley Catton changes a lot of tonight's game.
You were talking about that on the live commentary.
Yeah, I think he changes the dynamics for the Stevenson line, and they're able to get going a little bit more offensively. I know their role tonight was very much defensive, and it was to try to take away that Granlund with Beckett Seneca, and they were somewhat successful in that. They were able to generate a lot of dangerous chances, but they didn't actually get on the board, so I guess it was okay. But I do wonder if you had Berkeley Catton that you could throw on that line once you're down, the 2 goals or something like that, and just kind of get things going. Or I think Berkeley Catton's able to swing things in your favor with those middle 6 matchups that you lost tonight, just because he has that offensive ability to kind of create things and hold on to the puck a little bit longer in the offensive zone, give the rest of the team a chance to set up. Maybe you get a couple longer sequences in the offensive zone just because of what Berkeley Catton can do, because there is no real replacement for him on this squad. Certainly Ryan Winterton kind of getting his minutes there is not the offensive replacement for Berkeley Catton at all.
Yeah, and for a team that was searching for a spark for roughly 55 minutes in this game, he is one of the few players who can provide those spark-worthy plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Solid Octo Parakeet. I mean, based on the game score, though, Dunn had a good game, but Montour bad. What was the difference? That's interesting. I'd have to look at things. I didn't notice a huge difference between them, to be honest.
I didn't either. I mean, I think Montour was on the ice for some of the better Ducks chances, but it wasn't directly a result of him.
Right. No, I mean, things in front of him at times are pretty rough. I mean, it's tough, right? Let's see. I'm trying to see if I mean, yeah, there isn't any real indication based on the stats from this one. Montour with 5 blocks tonight.
Huh.
It's a lot of blocks. He did have 3 giveaways.
Shows he's in the D zone a lot.
Yeah, true. Let's see. Irsa Roots, can I complain about the national broadcast? Because my goodness, they sounded so uninterested and bored that it made the game boring and felt worse than the way Kraken were playing. Yeah, I mean, we didn't listen to it with the sound on, so can't totally speak to the broadcast. Obviously, whenever they have the back-to-back games and everything, you're getting the B unit from them on the West Coast. That's why John and Eddie were on the call for the game prior. So there is always going to be an element around that, but I think that for the most part, the game was just kind of that way.
It was, and I know like Invader pointing out, Kraken did themselves no favors, and Ursa basically saying it wasn't even like a bias thing. It was just
Just
they just kind of sounded so
yeah.
bored talking about either team. And look, I mean, this game wasn't really close or competitive. It just wasn't. I mean, it was 0-0 after the first, but like not the most interesting game. A couple teams that nationally no one really cares about a ton. A couple teams that like neither of them are all that good. I guess even though it is their job to be interested and sound not bored, like I understand the reasons, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's one of those, you know, hockey is when you're talking about networks and particularly the national broadcasting networks where they have multiple sports under their purview. Hockey is the one where they'll sign one group to handle the main games and stuff, but they're not going to put a ton of resources into the second group because they're only going to be used a handful of times and they're not going to flex them into other sports, right? They're just kind of signing specialized people for hockey. And so I think some of it is just the byproduct of hockey not being that popular. You don't have the top talent in the broadcasting game going into covering those games. And you certainly don't have networks wanting to shell out a ton of money for them either.
Yeah. No, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate kind of reality situation. Chuck, as a request for you guys, if you haven't done so already, can you ask Monty how he pronounces his name? I'm pretty sure John says Montour, but Ian and National guys say Montour. Would like to know.
I haven't really given that any thought.
I
We
hadn't
can we can
given it a
ask
lot
around
of.
about that.
I
Not
haven't
anytime
either.
soon, but we can.
Yeah. What do I say? I say Montour.
Montour, Brandon Montour.
Yeah. Like I say it more like tour, like with the
Yeah,
U's.
Montour. Hmm. Now I'm going to say you say it so many times, it just starts becoming meaningless and you can't make sense of it.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. Scott wondering if Schwartz or Alexiak could be moved before the deadline there.
I think Schwartz isn't going to be moved. Alexiak, I could see go. He's the one UFA that I could see them moving, and I think they would probably, if they do, would also go and buy and bring somebody in with those assets or with similar assets.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And then Byron, I feel like Forsland just minimizes his days off by any means necessary. It very much feels that way.
The effect would seem that way. Yeah, I don't think his schedule would be all that different if that's what he was trying to do.
Yes, yes. And then Schultz, would Wright, Evans at a first be too much for Cairo? I think so.
You think so? I think that sounds about right. What it would be.
I mean, it's
Value-wise.
not like Kyrie's on that much of a tear. And
No, I know you'd be buying
this
low
has
on
been killing
Kyrie.
us, right? There's an element of this and this goes way back to
It's
like
'cause
year one
go ahead.
Kraken, right? Every time we start talking about a larger trade and what sort of packages the Kraken would put together, the actual end result package in just about every trade we've seen in the NHL in the past 5 years since the Kraken have existed has not been what I thought it was going to need to be to get that player. Like every single time it's under what I think it would be.
Yes, but it's never the Kraken getting that deal done. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
but just
do they
because they
have to
haven't
pay a little
done
bit
it.
more to have but would they need to pay a little bit more to get that offer through the, across the finish line? I don't know.
I don't think so if Shane Wright's involved. I
Well,
think
that's the piece they could offer, but I really just wonder about Shane Wright's value or lack thereof at this point. Like that's where I would think is just like, Wright for Kyrou 1-for-1 is not fair value. Kyrou's worth a lot more than Shane Wright is.
he is,
He's a guy, I
but
mean, he's a 70-point player last year.
right. He's a 70-point player last year, but he's Got to
70
be
point player the last 4 years.
He's got to be disappointed with this team, and they have no leverage.
But here's the thing, they have no leverage. But the thing is, okay, this is what gets me though. He's got the no move clause or the no trade clause, right? That's
Yes.
the lack of leverage. Why is he picking Seattle as like, if he's going to name his destination and really reduce the leverage, why is he saying like, hey, it's Seattle or nowhere? He's not doing that.
Well, no, he's not doing that. But if they come to him and they're like, hey, we like this package from Seattle, would you be willing to go there? He might say yes just because they're in a playoff spot.
Sure, but I think that's the kind of thing where they'd go to him. We like this package from Seattle if it's like Wright Evans in a first or right, maybe
I think
two of those pieces.
I think they'd potentially do it for less because you know why? We have not heard Jordan Kyrou really connected to any other team. Who else is really trying to aggressively trade for Jordan Kyrou and is going to give up something more than say Shane Wright in a first? Like I think the Evans part is what sends that overboard. There are teams that would absolutely value Evans as somebody that they think could play 20 minutes a night, move the puck, and fit in their system.
Maybe. I don't know. Evans, like,
I wouldn't. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things.
He's a third pairing guy with maybe second pairing upside if you have him in a good system. Like that's where he's at.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
don't
think that has a teams do value that. But
they overvalue it all the time.
Well, usually, but for a defensively minded guy. They don't necessarily value it with someone of Riker, like, for the offensive, like puck mover type of guys who are a little smaller. I don't think they value it as much.
True. And unfortunately he is left-handed.
So
if he's a righty, oh man.
Yeah.
Talk about him for Kyrou 1-for-1 straight up. Yeah, I just think it's gonna be tough. Like, I don't know. I mean, if the unbelievable rumors are to be believed, RJ, right? Shane Wright is almost enough to get it done for Panarin. How could he not be enough to get it done for Kyrou?
Well, that's the other thing with Kyrou's value is he is locked in a really good contract for a long time at $8 million for a 70-point player. Yeah. That's a good deal. And it just keeps getting better. So
yeah,
I think that's another part of the value.
Yeah. And then Jason, this cat and take sounds like a very wise comment made during the live game commentary, in my opinion. Yeah. What would you know about that, Jason? Maybe,
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, no, it was definitely Jason who kind of brought up that idea during the live game commentary for sure. Definitely credit goes to Jason. Maddie, can't believe we didn't get a goalie fight. I thought we were doing those again.
Yeah, I thought we go and grew Dostal. Dostal was practicing for it early today.
Yeah, Grubauer would be game if things, shook out nicely that way. Just saying. And then Mason, regarding Dunn and Monty, Dunn had a few good shots on goal. Monty threw his few chances wide. Monty was looking to set up guys completely. Fuji really wants to make sure he gets that camera nice and clean.
Oh, yes. I don't have food up here. Here, cheer up the people. Cheer up the people after they lost. Okay.
Yes. Mason, I talked to a Blues fan friend of mine, and he said that he would take Wright for Kyrou. So,
interesting.
There you go. That's where the fans are.
All right. I would not do that from a Blues perspective.
Got to take advantage of it if you can. And then money talking about why would Kyrou be interested in Seattle? Taxes. Yeah,
that is a part of it. Although, does Missouri really have that high of a tax rate?
It's not a high tax rate, but he does have to pay taxes there.
Right, he has to pay state income taxes, yeah.
Yeah, but it is low. So and then Scott asking, what if Wright blossoms would be a big regret? I mean, that is the concern, but it's also one of those where you can paralyze yourself because he's not going to, or at least he certainly isn't right now blossoming here. And so it's one of those where you have to weigh what his value is. And if he's not contributing to your team, you can't be so scared of him potentially contributing to someone else in the future that you don't maximize a return that you can get for him now. Because you can either have him stay around and never be put in a position to blossom, and he just eventually ages out and he walks in free agency and he turns into one of the big busts of all time. And that doesn't help you at all. Or you trade him and you go, look, if it works out somewhere else for him, so be it. But look, we're going to at least get a really good player back that's going to help our team win games. And that will ease the suffering of anybody who's too upset by it. But the reality is, like, right now, with the way this team is structured, he's not going to blossom and turn into a player that you would regret trading as long as he's here.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying on the podcast the other week, was just like, it seems like you have no interest in giving him, what he needs to develop. At that point, you have to move him. And certainly if you can get someone like Jordan Kyrie's caliber, that's a good move to make if you've determined that you're not going to develop Shane Wright, which I think the Kraken have.
Yeah, I agree. And then here's a Root asking, Kyrou, did he play with Schwartz and Dunn? Yeah, he was up there during that bit of stretch,
Yeah, well,
right?
because I think we it was on the armchair. Yes, it was on the armchair GM stream last month where we looked this up at per someone's suggestion. I'm sorry, I don't remember who exactly it was, but Kyrou was a line mate with Jaden Schwartz in St. Louis, and they were like one of the most common line mates. So if you do bring in Kyrou, maybe you think about trying to bring Jaden Schwartz back.
Well, and it is one where, if you're asking, would Kyrou waive his no trade clause to come here? I'm sure he would reach out to those guys, and then, hopefully you've created a good environment for them, and they would say, you could come here. But like, that would be in theory something that you'd have there for you. Apparently there's some Caps chatter around Kyrou. Washington seemed interested in everybody, but it sounds like because of their recent struggles, they're now out on everybody. So just because I think they realize that they don't, unless it's like Panarin level, I don't think Washington's going to kind of go for it. Although they're right back in it now.
Well, that's the thing. They were the one team, like the one kind of pathetic team the Kraken have played recently, where they actually like took that Kraken loss as a wake up call and turned it around. The other teams have just kept in a downward direction, but they won 3 in a row, I think, after that.
Yeah. Scott asking, 2 cats or 1 for you there?
Oh, just one. Just one, Fuji. He's active and he's everywhere. He's in multiple places at once, but just one.
Yeah. And then for Mark, Wiener Dog was ready to fight Fuji. I had to chase him off my lap.
Sorry, Mark.
Square up, Fuji. You got to square up.
Yeah.
And then from here, from Mason, not with the millionaire tax Ferguson is trying to pass. I thought it was interesting. He got asked that by a journalist today, basically regarding what effect the millionaire tax would have on economic returns from a winning sports franchise in Seattle by not being able to bring in as good a talent, with the tax code being a boon to them. Do you happen to know what his answer was, Mason? Because that would be interesting to hear. I think like it's one of those things where obviously I'm in favor of the idea of a millionaire tax. The problem is for athletes especially, they're the ones that always end up floating that bill by far and away the most, because like the people that you're really trying to go after, billionaires, they have so many avenues to get around it and they will get around it
or just leave.
Yes, or they'll just leave. Whereas athletes, they're one of the few groups of people that are for sure going to be making millions of dollars, but it is in actual straight salary. It's not options. It's not unrealized gains that they're leveraging against, and all of the shenanigans that, say, a finance person can play or a CEO of a tech company could play, so that it's not just straight, easily taxable income. Athlete is in the exact opposite boat. It is only in taxable income. That is the only thing that they have. And so a lot of times athletes will end up having the largest tax bills around, even though they're definitely not the richest people around, right? They're rich. They're making plenty of money. Don't get me wrong. But they, compared to some other people in Washington State and what they're making, I guarantee you there would be scenarios where, guys on the Seahawks or the Sonics, when they come back, would have higher tax bills than some of those billionaires would. And it's one of those where it's like, obviously, I guess it's cool that you're getting that tax revenue, but it's not really fixing the core problem that you need to fix there.
Yeah, and it does have real effects on the sports teams and their ability to be competitive and attracting talent. Like that is a real effect that it does have, and especially in the NHL too, where good look again, the players are making a lot of money. I get that. But compared to some of these other leagues, if in the NFL, if you're, making 20 million a year, 30, if you're a quarterback, even, more than that, like 50 million a year, it's less of a difference to you versus if you're an NHLer making, 3 or 4 million before taxes already. And then you're looking at maybe 1 to 2. It makes a bigger difference, especially when, look at the cost of housing, in the state too. It's the kind of thing that can make a difference. And I think would end up hurting the Kraken because already they've got some headwinds. Like one of the few things they have going for them is the favorable tax environment.
Yes. Even though it hasn't seemed to help them that much yet.
No, it hasn't. No, they haven't been able to take advantage of it. We've done a whole, deep dive on that, even on the Armchair GM stream and stuff.
Yeah. And then, Mason saying the long and the short of his answer was most states have income tax. So we're looking closely at who this tax would specifically affect closely. Yeah. I mean, that's a typical politician answer on that. We're looking at it. But like, yeah, it's one where, that can happen. And as Edward's saying, so the athletes would have a bigger tax bill than the owners paying them. I guarantee you that's happened.
It's quite possible. Yeah.
That is very, very real. And like that, I don't think that should be the case, right? Like, I think you probably want to do something to tax the people making a lot more than the athletes, and you have to figure out a way of doing that.
Man, that sounds. What's the amount and what are they paying? That sounds just like a GM answer too. Well, you got to look at lots of different things. I think lots of teams do things, and so we're looking at what do we need and what can we get and who's out there, and
it's a very PR coded answer. Cole trading Wright for Kyrou, who's slightly better than McCann points wise. Oof, just my opinion. I mean, but you're talking about trading Wright for Kyrou, not McCann, right? Like, what's the increase on points from Wright to Kyrou? About double.
Yeah, Shane Wright, we forget he's on a less than 30-point pace this season. Like 30,
really low. So you are talking about double, more than double.
You've let his value really, really drop here. He is not producing.
Yeah. No, it's a problem, right? Like Shane Wright still has potential, but it is still just potential. And at some point that potential will not be enough for another team to value him highly. But yeah, he has 20 points in 55 games. It's less than half a point per game. Like he is not, there is zero indication that he is going to do anything here. Like
I'm looking at the list, he right now in scoring, he is tied with players like Ryan Green in Chicago, Martin Fervari, defenseman, Anthony Beauvillier, Nick Waugh, Connor Zary. Like, the production, again, there's a lot of potential there, but like, you got to look at what the production is. Adam Gaudette in San Jose,
Yeah. Yeah. And Cole, sure, I was 3 minutes behind, didn't realize. No worries. And then Stratic, the NHL should change the salary cap to take into account income taxes so as not to punish higher tax states. I know that that's been talked about. And like certainly like Toronto fans want that because obviously if you play in Canada, it's a very high tax rate. And people have felt like that has affected the Canadian markets a lot. There was a better solution for it though. I'm trying to remember what it was. Rather than just having like a variable salary cap based on the different teams, because it gets really weird and messy to try to do that and to try to figure it out. I forget what the solution was. Oh, I think it was to scale the bonus money. Instead of scaling the salary cap, you could just scale the amount of bonus money possible to be given. That might have been it.
Okay.
So then
I like that
everybody's
solution.
Right. So that way salaries are the same, because the problem with changing the salary cap number to account for state income taxes is what happens to a player's contract when he's traded.
Yeah. Huh.
Like it all of a sudden like things like that become like really interesting. Are you scaling
and then like sign and trades
contract?
or something, right?
Right.
Where
Sign and trade scenarios. Like you would absolutely give up a 3rd round pick to have a guy signed in like a certain area to get certain, like to like potentially scale his contract slightly differently, potentially. Right. And I know like you're talking about the cap number. So in theory, the contract should be the same. but the contracts wouldn't always be the same. Certainly, like on the RFA front, if you want to
Yeah.
retain your own player and you're a team that happens to have a higher salary cap than a different team, on average, you're absolutely going to be paying more for those RFAs than the team that isn't, because they're going to be saying, look, we want X percentage of the cap. And that's just a higher dollar figure. And now maybe you can't trade him later if you do want to trade him, because that cap number is just higher, even though you signed him originally based on an equal percentage. So it really like kind of it gets more complicated than
It
it
gets
should
really
be.
messy. And again, it's a smaller reason in the grand scheme of things for any of this stuff. As Viren says, the NHL should change the salary cap to prevent teams in boring locations from losing players to New York and Vegas. Like like the difference in just like living, nightlife, things to do, weather, like that all makes a much bigger difference than the tax environment.
Yes. And there's so many scenarios and situations where the tax difference isn't even that much.
Yeah.
And I highlighted this on a video on the channel a long time ago, but like there's plenty of states and situations, or like with St. Louis, Missouri is one of them, where you're talking about, obviously anywhere that they're playing in the US, they're paying federal taxes. And then anywhere they're playing in Canada, they're paying Canadian federal taxes. So that you still have taxes. It's not like they're like getting all 100% of their money versus guys in other states not getting any of it. So you just have to look at the sliding scale based on the states. And like that can vary hugely. Obviously, California is going to be like at roughly 11% versus for players making, a good amount of money, versus other states where like Carolina, I just happen to remember, is like 5.25. So like you're talking about like a difference of 6% at the end of the day there. Like, sure, that's a lot of money when you're talking about like a $50 million contract, or if you're talking about it being very bonus heavy, but it's not like enough that in theory, like, yes, I'm gonna change the decision on where I want to spend the next 7 years of my life and raise my family over. Right. Like I'll take the 6% hit to live and join the organization I want to join, rather than just chase the straight cash. At least I think that way, and I think most players have historically thought that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And or even to win. It's not even just locale, do I have a chance at a
Mhm.
Stanley Cup? And that's going to be number one for a lot of players.
Right. So a lot of times the tax difference isn't as much as in other ones. And again, the California teams have never struggled to attract talent when they're good. When those teams are good, they've never struggled really to attract talent. And they
It's one of the
have
worst tax
and it's
environments
the worst tax
anywhere.
environment. You're talking about 11% difference between signing in Tampa or Florida versus with the California team, and you see guys just as willing to go there. It's
Yep.
more of just, am I willing to go to the West Coast? If I am, yeah, I'll pay the taxes and live in LA or live in San Jose. Like it doesn't seem to be an issue for them.
Yep.
Historically anyway.
Yeah. People liking cash in the comments. Some people like cash. I like cash.
I know. Trust me. I would like cash too. But I think when you've already made it and you're talking about that big free agent deal, it becomes a little less important, and the life you have to live around it and everything.
Yep.
You've already made enough that you're secure. Let's see. And then Mark saying it's deep into the woods, but it is complicated because visiting teams pay a jock tax when they play in states with an income tax. Yeah, it gets really complicated because you have that whole situation, because you're earning the money in the place that you are. In the NHL, I mean, they have to pay Canadian taxes. Right?
Yeah.
Kraken players have
For
to
those
pay
road
Canadian
games.
taxes for every road game that they're playing in Canada. So it ends up being a lot closer and a lot more even than people think it is. Right? It gets. I think it personally gets talked up a lot, but when you actually break it down to percentages, it's not a huge percentage difference.
Yeah.
That being
No,
said, if you're the Kraken, you should have been using the whole bonus thing and trying to take advantage of that.
yes, that was a big advantage you actually could have, and the Kraken just completely whiffed on that. So that was an issue. But
yeah.
thank you for the cash, Mason. There,
Yes,
thank you. Appreciate
Mason.
it.
Appreciate that. Yes, I very much appreciate.
Talk about money for long enough.
Appreciate that. Yes, then it comes to you, I guess. No, but appreciate that, especially after also being the patron and joining us earlier. It's really, really kind. And then Vira, and do you have to recalculate the cap every time a country, state, city passes a different tax law? Yeah, see, it would
That's
just
another
be
thing too. Yeah,
it would be difficult to handle. You would, yeah. The NHL would really need to throw a lot of accountants at it to try to figure it out. It's yeah. Everybody, I agree. It makes me not want to be an accountant. I'm with you, Stratic.
I don't know. It makes me want to be an accountant.
Yeah. All right, we'll do a quick last call here for anything before we wrap up the post game live. RJ Dillon, any downtime during the Olympic break? Yeah, we're both gonna be heading down to Southern California to visit family.
Yep, that's pretty much the plan. I think after tomorrow, I'm gonna try and take a couple. I mean, I have a bunch of work to catch up on, but like after that, maybe try and take a couple days to just decompress, not think about hockey at all. But yeah, family time for both of us.
Yep. Edward, I find this conversation very taxing.
It's true.
It's one of those like you nail it every time, Edward. I'm always like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
why am I not there? And then Warlord and Warheads just want to see us compete for a cup. Seattle was the first U.S. city to touch that cup. It needs to come home. I agree. It would be really nice to see that. And Maddie, idea for Patreon content, Olympic game watch, maybe the finals. I don't know. It'd be neat. We have to look at the schedule. That's the problem with a lot of the Olympic games is that they're not played at ideal times to do watch live game commentaries too.
Also, ask us again when we haven't been streaming for 4 hours straight. We might be more eager for it.
Probably. I have been like trying to figure out additional content and stuff, and there are times or subjects that are like hockey related, but they don't really fit into things that I've thought about for doing live streams or even just like YouTube videos. Like I watched a video and then did a deep dive into the private equity takeover of youth sports and everything, and how it's like absolutely going to kill sports as a whole. And so like there's like a lot of stuff there that I think is like interesting. Obviously that particular topic's a bit of a downer, but I have wondered if Patreon people would maybe be interested in those kinds of things. So maybe do stuff like that, because hockey is ground zero for all of that. It was originally in the 90s for organized stuff and travel teams and all that, and it's ground zero for this as well. So yeah, we'll see. Men's gold final is 5:10 a.m. on Sunday the 22nd. So I don't know for
the
Mason
gold medal game
meet up. I don't know that we're gonna make that work.
No, yeah, no meet up for that one. I think
I don't know that it's gonna happen.
You're more likely to get me to just like stay up for it through the whole night or whatever and watch it than to get up that early for it.
Bronze medal 10:40 a.m. on Saturday. Why is that not reversed?
Why does the bronze medal get a better time slot than the gold medal?
Oh my gosh, it's insane. Oh.
And Mason, that's like, I would love to be like a big soccer fan. I'd love to follow the Premier League. Like I would be so into it if not for the 4 a.m. kickoffs. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's a little early even for me.
Yeah, but I would be so into it otherwise.
Yeah,
I could talk trash with Joey Decord like Charles.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they do it the right way. You know, they have a regular season and then it's over.
They do it well. I'll say that. Hey, if you give me that in a deal with things like promotion and relegation and like no stupid loser point and all that, I'll probably take the whole package.
Yep. All right. That's gonna do it for the post game live.
We're not just gonna make this whole thing in 24 hours. We're going 4 hours already. Only 20 hours to go.
Is it like the Waffle House thing though? Do I get to cut an hour off for every waffle I eat? Because I do have a new pack of Eggos downstairs, and I could crush that thing right now.
Oh, I could too.
I will eat all 10 of them without a question. Like not a doubt in my mind. I'll eat them frozen.
Only need to stream for another half hour.
Frozen Eggos, so good.
Oh, they are. Yeah, don't even heat them up.
Yeah, no, that is the greatest.
You want one? I don't have any. You need to bring me.
Not my problem. All right, that's gonna do it for realsies this time. I'll throw some outside for RJ. Him and the squirrels could fight over him.
Yeah, there we go.
Call back to the live game commentary
The
stream.
raccoons, yeah.
Yep. All right, that's gonna do it, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you all next time.